What's up, everybody?
Hey,
Welcome
hey,
to the
here we
Week of the
go again.
Serpent.
Week of the Serpent. Yes, sir. Uh, yeah, after basically being gone for 2.5 weeks,
Yeah, we missed
something like
all of
that.
Road. I was
Yeah,
really hoping that we would be able to connect over Road Week.
yeah. But that, I mean, could be symbolic of walking the path too.
Whoa.
Right.
Yeah, like
Uh,
you mean like both of us invested in our own path, or
yeah. Which I
yeah.
mean, I, it could have been necessary that our paths didn't cross during that time.
Interesting.
Right.
Interesting. Yeah,
Right.
because
Uh,
I was because yeah, that would seem counterintuitive to me because I feel like this podcast has been integral in a lot of ways. Like the consistency that we've had with it
mhm.
uh, has been very much a part of my path.
Yeah.
Uh,
Same.
but yeah, but still, like what you're saying, it's like just like everything kind of needs like a little bit of a, a relax or a break, a
Hmm.
rest, to focus elsewhere. So
Yeah. We were talking about working out and getting focus away from the mind and goals and things of that sort, and
yeah,
getting it down into the body. Something that Mike Mike Metzer, like the one of the greatest bodybuilders
no,
in past history. Like he was working out with Arnold at the time, competing directly
right,
with him. Um, he was saying that a big part of body development with muscle mass gain and all this is rest. You have to have rest, right? So there has to be a point where you accept the fact that you're working hard to do these things and you take that time to rest so that your body can build and rebuild
yeah,
the things that you've torn apart literally.
right. Makes sense too. Coming after that, that also makes sense why Road comes after Storm Week, because Storm can be a lot of energy. And it's a
Oh
lot of
yeah.
energy moving around, and then so you need some. Maybe it's why we have such a strong connection too. Is it's like we balance each other out in a lot of ways.
Hmm.
Our energies are suitable in that sense. Not necessarily directly like I haven't seen that on any of the sites or anything that like roads and storms really go together well. I mean, any of the symbols can find their ways that they're compatible. I truly think,
Hmm.
um, but that makes sense too. Again, I thought about that a little bit, and I think I talked about it in the last episode. Is like the fact that one Trikana comes right after the other, storm and then road, and that they're kind of organized that way, where you kind of have like a high energy week, and you like process a lot of things, and you're taking in a lot of new stuff, but you're also putting a lot of new stuff out, and then you need a week of like kind of like this Serpent Week is a high energy week.
Oh yeah.
We just got through the road, and now we're doing Serpent, which is like vitality, sexuality, and yeah, I already said vitality. But yeah, the Serpent and
Hmm.
Doctor Energy. I don't know.
No, yeah, no, yeah.
So that I'm excited to see if that continues to oscillate that way.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure it does, um, because if you look at the way the cross is formed, right, we alternate between going north and south and east and west, right?
Right.
So the way that the sun travels across the sky is east to west, right? Whereas our north and south are the only things that are truly consistent, and they're a lot slower in their transitions, right? So we
Oh,
go
okay.
from winter to summer in a
Whoa.
longer
Whoa.
wavelength than we do with a daily transition.
Right.
Yeah,
Yes.
which is a higher
And that's
frequency.
why those are associated too. Your left and right are your uh, challenges and gifts, which you get to experience every day,
Mm-hmm.
versus your destiny, which is like your life path
Mm-hmm.
towards uh, and where you start.
Mm.
So bottom.
Right.
Whoa.
Which
Dude,
which
blowing my
also
mind. I love it already. We're not
which
even 5 minutes in. Oh, we are.
right, which are also like slower transitions if you look at it that way, not just
Right.
as your destiny path, but your transition from your youth. It takes several years to get to your main energy, which takes a longer time to
Yeah.
transition into your destined path, which is, I think, the longest frequency band, the longest
Yeah.
wavelength. And we were talking about that earlier too, is how light is not the primary source in the universe, or the primary acting force, whereas vibration, sound is,
Yeah.
right? Because everything is an energy that is described as a frequency and a wavelength. Everything.
Right.
Which is why Nikola
Yeah.
Tesla said, if you want the keys to the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and wavelength.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Which also very much ties into how the gig that I was telling you about is a direct reflection of today in past years. Whereas in the past, from the show that I'm in, is describing the experience of a young person, an artist, at the dawn of the Great Depression and the Dust Bowl in the Midwest. And so, like, you're experiencing economic hardships when art was an option, a free option to choose as a life path, and on top of that, you have these extreme weather situations which are causing even further economic hardships, right? Because if you've got a dust bowl, you're not growing any crops, right? And so you're having to do anything you can in order to maintain some sort of homeostasis at home, to keep food on the table, to make sure your family survives. So people are leaving the Midwest in droves, trying to get to a place where they can survive, earn something so that they can support their families. And so, like, we're having extreme weather situations at this point during a horrible time in our economy. And, like, people are moving left and right, to different parts of the country. People are moving out of the country just to try and get, a more stable living situation, which is
Yeah.
is wild, but is a necessary thing to experience if we're going to make it through. And it is also necessary for us to look back at the frequency of things that happened before us so that we can make
Yeah.
this transition through this easier and hopefully avoid it again in the future.
Yeah. If we think about history as a sound wave moving, you know, a sound wave over time,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you're seeing echoes or rhyming patterns of what we experienced globally 100 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
As the Roaring Twenties, you could say that if it were to line up exactly, but that's why people say history rhymes, it doesn't repeat.
Yeah.
That, well, like, we didn't really have like a World War I, kind of experience, but you could probably find things that were breaking points that were happening around the same time in the mid 2000 teens.
Well,
Um,
I mean, it wasn't necessarily
we,
in
we wouldn't we
in
wouldn't
the
necessarily need to say what those are, but like just just
we
by
did we
just
did
by
we
thinking about it, like you could pinpoint things that were happening, things that were changing that felt a lot like a breakdown of of what had been up until that point to cause a world war. Tensions were getting higher, and
Mm-hmm.
then something changes, and yeah, now we're living in this new world, just like any story, right? Like you, once upon a time, and every day, and you're living that, and it's like, oh, the world is just this way, and then
Mm-hmm.
until one day something changes, and I think that's also what can make history and the ripple effect more illusory. Is there's no really one for World War One, it was the shot heard around the world, which I'm not sure
Yeah.
about all the details, but it's basically one person was assassinated, and then, but that even that, it's like no, because like sure, that's maybe what kind of kicked it off, but it was building towards that for a long time,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not like people like immediately sent their troops that day. It
No.
was just like the catalyst, and so, and that's why things like don't necessarily happen exactly 100 every 100 years. It's going to be exactly the same thing, but you can feel all the same things happening right now.
Yeah.
The
I
way
mean,
our economy is going, like in terms of the stock market, it's like, well, even though things are crazy, like things are still kind of moving up. And it's like, how long are they going to move up before everything implodes because the infrastructure that's in place or the institutions that maintain that trajectory, when are they going to give out
yeah.
and then have everybody having this kind of new Great Depression, and then what's going to come out of that? Because you can imagine that there's going to be a lot of pain and suffering as a consequence,
Mm-hmm.
and then potentially what comes out of that. A new golden era, potentially, like we had in the U.S., but maybe globally, as a consequence of whatever is in store for our future,
Yeah.
if we make it that far. When we make it that far, folks, if we all kind of believe that there's a way through, we will find it.
Yeah. A good way through, not just
A
some
good way
sort
through, a
of
what that yeah
orchestrated.
allows for.
Yeah. Well, I mean, arguably, we are experiencing the exact same thing because we've essentially America has been in a number of wars essentially for the last 20 years. You
Right.
know, since the incidents with the Twin Towers and the Pentagon, like,
Yeah.
and who's to say the shot heard around the world wasn't an orchestrated event? Who's to say that that
Right.
that wasn't something that was orchestrated? Uh, yeah, somebody died. People died, and that was
I like I like that you're using the word orchestrated too, because when we are talking about sound waves and ripple effect, that there is a conductor, not necessarily a man in the sky,
hmm
but that things unfold mathematically. That there are base principles that repeat or have rhythm or harmonize and disharmonize.
hmm
And so it's not necessarily any individual. We like to put a lot of power into individuals,
hmm
and through this podcast, we are talking about our individual experiences,
hmm
but they all just kind of inform each other to get a better map of the principles that are orchestrating everything,
yeah,
and the
100%.
patterns. So if you have a better lens on the patterns, you have more control. You get become more self empowered to recognize. Oh, you might even be able to start to predict uh, closer and closer and more accurately what's going to happen next.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean that's a great way to understand what we're sitting in with today's energy is
Mm-hmm.
the unification, the unity of energy, the serpent, the basis of the frequency, right? Because snakes move in a harmonious, frequent pattern that resembles what we would look at in a spectroscope, you know,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
As a means of modality. So with that idea of this being the seed, right, the unified whole, we see how everything kind of comes together, right? We have this understanding that it's all one thing, right? And from that one thing, like Nassim Haramein's research shows is that you can develop an insane amount of subdivisions perfectly within a single unit, within a finite sphere, right? So Nassim Haramein is a mathematician who basically coined the idea that you can subdivide infinitely inside a finite reality. And so this is how we have to essentially look at the universe, or our personal spheres, right?
Right.
All these things are related to each other, right? These things aren't necessarily outside of ourselves; they are a part of ourselves, and we need to understand that these have their place, but they are not what define the whole as an experience, right?
Yeah.
So, like, these are just one aspect that are supposed to teach us something.
Yes.
Um,
That's why I like too, as I kind of learn more about the whole nawal system. Is yeah, again, like kind of like I mentioned last time we did the podcast. I was looking at my neighbor nawals and going like, "Oh, that's such a silly perspective on life," but it really takes like understanding them all. Like if you really want to empower yourself, it's like learning how each of, because all of them together make the whole.
mm-hmm.
So you operating out of your, whatever your birth nawal is, or whatever your trikana is, or whatever the day is, your horoscope for that day,
Mm-hmm.
is just a piece. It's just a moment in time. But the eternal now is all moments all together. So it's all pieces all the time, everything everywhere all at once. And that's overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
So it helps to break that into pieces that are more digestible. That's why we feel separate. That's why we have individuality, is so that we can digest from our POV the totality of everything in our way, in a way that makes sense to us. And that's why it's a journey just to go through it. But yeah, that you have to kind of stack the powers that aren't necessarily yours to begin with. So the elements or the nawals that aren't yours to begin with. You really want to look into, how am I like a serpent? How am I like a monkey? How am I like light? How am I like a storm? How am I like a road? The more of those that you do, that's why also horoscopes, people get frustrated with them, because they're like, well, yeah, this could apply to anybody. Everybody feels that way. And that's exactly it. So instead of looking at that as like a negative, it's like, oh, yeah, like there are things that bind us all together. And
Mm-hmm.
it may not be my experience today, but it could be my experience tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mean, like we've brought this up before, but I think my favorite part of that whole argument that people get frustrated with those horoscopes is like, oh, they all apply to everybody all the time. Like, no, like they many of them, I'm sure, do apply to several to a single individual at once. But my argument is that it's probably because you have a major planetary placement within those zodiac signs that causes that to be influential on your life
Right.
and apply to you.
Right.
Right? Because there are at least three, potentially three different signs that will affect you incredibly deep that you wouldn't necessarily think of because it's not the season that you were born
Right.
in, right? So for me, as an example, I was born in October, just on the cusp of the end of Libra into Scorpio. So like for me, I should look at Libra and Scorpio, both.
Right.
But not only that, like if I look at the rest of the placements, the ascending sign, the sign that's rising into the sky at the time that I was born, not just the day, not just the month, but the time, it's Aries. And so, like, that is more of a physical embodiment for how I present to the world. Is more of a warrior, right? And so, like, I have to look at that. Like, I have no choice. Like, more oftentimes, that applies more to my life than Libra does. But then I also need to pay attention to Pisces, because that's where my moon sat when I was born. So, like, I have an incredible amount of depth with my emotionality. I can stay surface level. I can stay in these nice, warm surface waters where everything's colorful and sweet, and there's abundance of food and lots of things happening. But it's also very tumultuous, right? Things are moving constantly. The waves, people are driving across with their boats or jet skis or whatever, right? People are swimming in it. There's an abundance of other life forms in there. But if you go to the depths, right, which is where Pisces tends to be, because it's the last symbol in the zodiac before we restart over with Aries, is this understanding that the ocean is both shallow at the shores and incredibly deep in the trenches. So, like, I have this understanding of where, like, some of the darkest parts of reality reside, because I've had to live through them. Right? Near-death experiences, Me Too moments, like, all this shit. Like, I've had to experience these things. Persecution, bullying, like, all of that stuff. Like, it's made me stronger, but it's not necessarily the things that people want to talk about at all times. So sometimes you just have to rise out of those depths so that people can, feel nice, feel warm, feel fluffy, feel like they can skirt across the top of it without having any problems on a surfboard or something like that.
You mentioned that, and this might be a tangent, so let's
Sure.
see if we can only spend a couple minutes on this. But I am curious because I know that or people are relatively well aware now that we're in the age of Aquarius, and you mentioned that Pisces is the end of a cycle,
Mm-hmm.
and yet we went from the age of Pisces, from the last 2,000 something years,
Mm-hmm.
into the age of Aquarius in the late 1960s or something like that,
Yep.
and so we're moving in. We're still moving because it's like when you talk about scales that large, it's a transition period. But I'm kind of curious about, like, if Pisces is the end of a cycle, that feels like it's moving backwards, because I know Pisces comes after Aquarius. So why would that be? Do you know why that is? Yeah.
Because it's how it moves in the sky. So the way we
It's not
observe.
linear. It's not linear, right?
Well, right. I mean, it's all cyclical, right? Because it's going around in a
Right.
circle. But as we process through the ages, in the precession of the equinox, the tilt of how the Earth orients itself in the space. We go counter to the way that the sun moves, right? So the sun moves across in this direction, and we're moving that way. So instead of going in the way that we've organized it through our seasons, right?
Oh.
Aries, Taurus, Cancer, in
Whoa.
that direction, we go the opposite direction. So
Got it.
the age before Pisces was Aries, which was a very tumultuous time, right? There was a lot of wars happening, and that's why that was such a pivotal moment in our history,
Oh.
because we were having to deal with constant wars at a grand scale, right? This was the Roman Empire at their peak, right? To transition into this age of Pisces,
Well, even
where
before that, I think it was even before the Roman Empire, because the Roman Empire was at its height, like coming into what is known as 0 AD. Like,
Mhm.
or they were at their height, maybe even like their height in terms of the territory. Again, I don't know. This is again time and like blending. Like, it takes time to transition to another. But yes, the Romans in general were, the de facto war machine of
Mhm.
the last age. Um, but that culminated out of the wars between the East and the West in terms of Alexander the Great. Like I'm thinking like 400 years before, but
Oh
also
yeah.
before Alexander the Great, there was um, multiple wars between East and West, and until Alexander the Great, like um, the East had control of a lot of what is now the Mediterranean basin and southern Europe and all that. So
Mm-hmm.
and they had the power and influence over those times. But yeah, so like, but yeah, constant war,
Mm-hmm.
uh, or like very much, left, right, east, west dynamics that are continue to echo today. So like,
Mm-hmm.
but where you might see that, uh, and those ages where Pisces, I'm kind of curious more like what Pisces represents then in terms of like, because that was like the dark ages, kind of like you're saying, maybe the depths of the ocean,
Mm-hmm.
and then we start to towards the end of Pisces or the last quarter of Pisces. That's when you start to see the Enlightenment, uh, and Aquarius is all about the truth piercing through, like
Yeah.
burning through.
Yeah.
Um, Water
Piercing the
bearer,
veil.
bringing the
Mm-hmm.
truth. Of Aquarius, and we're seeing now lots like more proxy wars. Yes, there's still wars, but they're being fought not necessarily directly on the battlefield in the trenches. They're being fought in the mind. And if you're going to take a Buddhist point of view on it, everything is mind. So,
Mm-hmm.
um,
It's that
so now we're
transition,
yeah.
that transition
So
point
that
between,
transition, yeah.
yeah, between that physical understanding of death into an emotional understanding into a mental understanding, right? Because you're going
So
from fire to water to air, right?
Oh, right. That's right. I learned recently too. Is Aquarius is a combination of air and water. It's like a water
Right.
bear, but it's an air symbol, which is
Mm-hmm.
like why? Because it's Aquarius, aqua. I'm thinking, but Aquarius,
Mm-hmm.
air. Yeah. Is what is Aries? Is Aries an air symbol?
Aries is fire,
No,
right?
fire. Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. But fire. But see, yeah. But fire, like fire, requires air in order to burn
Exactly.
and goes up. Heat
Yeah.
goes up and fire burns up. Um, Wild, cool. Let's see. Oh yeah, yeah. The other part about Aquaries. Back to what we were saying earlier in terms of like the echoes. So
Mm-hmm.
if 100 years ago we were still kind of working our way out of Pisces, and the darkness of having to physically fight out a war, like with the world wars, that does put a little bit of optimism that it might be more of a mind battle what we're going into if it's going to be a global kind of duke it out. Yes, there's going to be suffering and loss of life, but it's not going to be like you have to be sent to war. You're going to have to figure out how to survive, um, by your own means.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe like all the movies about zombie apocalypses or otherwise apocalypses is like, okay, the constraints are just you need to figure out how to survive and how are you going to negotiate that based on your environment, based on your context. It's not necessarily an us and them, um, but it's us and them all the time. Who is my enemy today? Who is my enemy tomorrow? Who is my friend today? Who have I lost? Who do I still have?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and that, oof, gosh, that sounds more intense actually, because it'd be easier if it was just like they're the bad guys, them over there,
Mm-hmm.
kind of like that recent movie Civil War, where it's like, what kind of Americans are you? And I think that's why that was the quote of that movie because they knew it would touch a lot of people and going like, oh, that's really scary, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
like you could start to have this frame of mind that,
Mm-hmm.
are you on my team or not? And I could decide at any moment that you're not. Gosh, that's
Right.
too
Yeah.
scary.
Which is again, we were speaking about this earlier. Is that old adage of divide and conquer? The more
Mm,
separated we feel from each other, the more easily we're controlled, right? And if
mm-hmm,
we're talking about mental wars, like we're Bill Cooper, William Cooper, coined the term or propagated the term to the populace that we are in a world war, but it's a silent war used using quiet weapons, right? So,
Which is kind of ironic too, because like it very much is the same kind of. There's a lot of noise. I mean, getting all the way back to sound too, but there's just a lot of noise. So
mhm.
yeah, so what do you think, or what do you infer the silence means when he says it's a silent war? Because that's kind of hard to digest when you think about how much noise there is.
Right. So, silent war in the sense that we don't know it's a war, right? It's kept hush
Mm,
hush, right? Silent. But there's a war
ooh,
being waged, right?
right,
It's a classist war, essentially,
right.
is the point to that. But the quiet weapons, instead of being, you know, burst fire machine guns like we've had in the last
Mm,
couple hundred years, or bombs, you know, that we've used last century and continue to use. It's on the people using things that are more subtle, right? Um, Bill describes specifically a type of technology that when you hear it, ricochets like a bullet in your mind, but you can't avoid it because it'll be everywhere. And the first
yeah.
thing that brought to my mind when I was reading it for the first time was a ping,
Ping, like
ping,
pinging. Yeah,
ping, right? Which
yeah,
is a sound that comes from a piece of metal hitting another piece of metal, generally. Um,
right.
it could be ricochet, you know, it can be from a gun, you know, a bullet just ding,
Right.
hitting a bell with a mallet, ding, like a school bell. It could be the same sound, you know, that you make when you're that we've heard for years on television, which is a dude taking a really hard spit into a spittoon,
A
and it's just
spittoon? Yeah.
ding, right?
Yeah.
But we associate that today with a message coming in, and you
Right.
cannot avoid that sound. It's everywhere. And as soon as you hear it, it's just like, oh God, where's my phone? Was that me? Was that you? Son of a,
Right.
like, it ricochets in your mind like a bullet. You can't escape it. And so, like, if you use frequency, which is the base force as far as we can tell in this reality, then you can properly attune the right frequency to make it damaging and detrimental,
Oh
malicious,
yeah.
right? I heard years and years ago that phones were attuned to a certain frequency that matched your thigh muscle, right? So that when it vibrated, like you would feel it throughout your entire leg, right? Which is why people have that phantom phone vibration. They just like
Yes.
they feel their leg and their phone's not
What?
there, right? They just like,
What?
oh, right, because it's tuned to the same frequency that your muscles vibrate at. So and everything has a frequency, right? Like
Yeah.
we've been shown this in our textbooks for years. And the funny thing is about like frequency when they show it on that spectral line spectrum, like they describe the sun having a frequency, light having a frequency, heat having its own frequency, people having a frequency, a football pitch. They specifically say, like in textbooks, that a football pitch has its own frequency, right? A football field,
Mm-hmm.
right, of any kind,
Mm-hmm.
soccer field, whatever you want to call it. It has its own frequency. And then you start to look into things like the works of Michael Tellinger, where he's exploring South Africa, is finding these structures and understanding that every single part of the planet resonates at its own specific frequency. very specific frequency, and it can be massive in magnitude, but it has its own frequency, and each space will each structure that he's discovering has its own unique shape based off of the frequency of that point in space on the planet.
Yeah.
Which he extrapolates into being a giant machine, an energy generating machine, through a whole lot of stuff. Like you'd have to study Michael Tellinger's work. He's since been kind of, pushed out of the major sphere of attention because he's been brave enough to just take on the idea that everything is a lie, and so he's adopted certain ideas that most of mainstream science is like, okay, that's way too far out there, dude. We can't. Nope. We can't be taken seriously in these regards if you're going to assert those kinds of assumptions.
Whoa.
Right. So, yeah. But apart from that, like, he's a wealth of resource when it comes to understanding the universe in terms of the way Nikola Tesla recommended observing the universe and having the keys to the universe by understanding it in terms of energy, frequency, and wavelength.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm always obsessed with like how to break down the symbols and stuff to their basis, because it's the quickest way, maybe. It's the most direct way to open the mind, expand your awareness, help. Mm-hmm. So, like, but you got to make it as simple as possible, which sounds hard, and it has been hard, because I feel like as much as this has been a kind of a search of mine, maybe my entire life, you can easily get misled or get trapped in other complicated systems. But the goal is always to find the common denominator, whatever everything is divisible by, and yeah, it is sound. And I had a realization, maybe it was a couple days ago, where I was like, all of our senses essentially are on this dimension of our face, but the only sense that goes that is also surround. Like, it's coming from all directions. That's why they're over here, so that you can kind of hear and you get a reference for where the sound is coming from. But your eyes only see half, and light, which is what we see based off, is only half of what is. This is, I'm having realizations as I'm speaking, but that the half that you can't see is the dark or the shadow or your past. It's all everything behind you. And that the ears and sound and wavelength and frequency is trying the best it can to pick up 360 degrees. Like, how powerful of a sense that must be to, it's not just about the frequency, like what it sounds like. Oh, that's a beautiful song. But I can hear where it is. Mm-hmm. So, like, we've heard about how, if you go blind, I've actually heard this recently too. I knew that, your other senses get heightened, but specifically you can develop echolocation. Mm-hmm. That humans have the ability to develop abilities that animals have. Yeah. Because of the makeup of our brain and how our neurons work, they can recalibrate so that we can still find our way around even if we lose one of our senses. Yeah. That's what stem cells do. That's what stem cells can do. Mm-hmm. And that's just fascinating to me. Because for somebody who has sight, it's like, if I just go, wow, I can tell that there's something, there's physical objects over here, right? Like, if I try to take away my eyes, But most people would go like, "Wow, that's amazing! That blows my mind. That's magic that that
Mm-hmm.
would happen." It's like, no, it's only natural that it would start to happen. You start to resonate with different senses
Mm-hmm.
uh, as a necessity in order
Yeah.
to fully continue to fully engage with your world.
Exactly.
Um, so then
Yeah.
you could take something like blindness and go, there's advantages just as much as there are disadvantages
Yeah.
to any uh, what's called a disability,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's a way of experiencing the world that we just don't understand. It's the same as if you were an animal, you or a plant or a rock. It's like we don't. If you allow yourself to, they can all experience vibration. That was a conversation I was having with my AI about when I was going down one of my rabbit holes. Is like um, all what is the most what is the most base thing? It's sound. Everything can experience sound. It's not necessarily touch. It's not necessarily because you feel the vibration.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's frequency, right? So it's like repetition of some sort of sense, whatever
Mm-hmm.
the sense is, the sense of sound, the sense of uh, it's how often is it happening, how close together is it, how far apart,
Mm-hmm.
which isn't the sense of touch. So people think we have five senses. We actually have like I don't know. I've heard somebody say recently we have 32, but I'm like,
Yeah.
where does it really end? Like you can divide anything into kind of a sense out of that base sense of sound. I mean,
Right.
we've gotten five out of that we like to label. We've labeled five,
Mm-hmm.
and then we had that movie Sixth Sense, so people are generally aware of there being a sixth sense. But it's like, why would it stop there? Exactly, it can be divided infinitely. So if you
Yeah.
have one, just like you said, if you have one finite thing, the most, the smallest, undivisible part that makes up everything, it can be divided infinitely.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And I love that you brought up senses because that's a part of what the shadow portion of the snake is about. So bringing it back into the Mayan symbol for the day, the serpent, also known as Kan, which is funny because I'm pretty sure Kan is the name of the snake in the Jungle Book,
Oh yeah.
right? Because there's
Well, there's Shere Khan.
Shere Khan is the
Yeah,
tiger, but I'm pretty
tiger.
sure
Oh,
the snake, the python, is called Khan.
oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah. So the being trapped in the physical is a part of the understanding of this day because it's such a like you were mentioning earlier, it's such a powerful, potent energy related to sexuality that we get trapped in the idea that things are beautiful or they're ugly or they're the way they're supposed to be or they're not the way they're supposed to be based off of society, based off of my desires, based off of the physical surroundings in the world. It's like no. Those things are an understanding that we gain so that we can relate to our three-dimensional world, but they don't necessarily have to resonate with us in order for us to feel fulfilled and to feel the desires that we have, right? So what if your spouse is not a model, right? Like that's not what you desire. You desire this person because of the way they make you feel, because of the way you make them feel, because of the interaction that you have with that person. And like the more you bond with that person, the more you appreciate that person, the more beautiful they become, right?
Holy shit, yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in that sense, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. It's 100% true, right? Because you are appreciating these things about this person. They may not fit the mold of what society or the functioning program has
Mm-hmm.
built around you, so that you can have this scaffolding. It's just a reference point so that you can like, oh, I like the way that person's nose is, or I like the way that
Right.
their eyebrows are, or the way their chin is, their jawline. You know, oh, they have really tiny ears. That's really cute. You know, or they have, oh, look at
Right.
those Dumbo's ears. That's adorable. You know, whatever it
Yeah.
is, like, and like the appreciation, the frequency that you tend to share with that person through your heart, through your senses, becomes what really bonds you in a magnetic way
Totally.
to each other. And so, like, when we get trapped within this idea that we don't have the car we're supposed to have, we're not in the status of life that we're supposed to be in, they're like, oh no, that's not your path, right? Which I think is something important. Like we were relating signs to our neighbors and our understanding that we went from the week of the thunderstorm into the week of the path, and now we're hitting the week of energy, the serpent, right? That it's we've gone through these trials, right? To test our mettle, to test whether or not we can follow the path. Now we're given the path to
Storm.
follow,
Road.
right?
Got it.
Now that we've reached that understanding of what our path is, can we accept the fact that it doesn't have to look like everyone else's,
Whoa.
right? So, like, this is how these things build onto each other. And so, like, I think
That's what I was going to ask. What's
symbol,
the next Tricana?
the next symbol week, the next Tricana, I believe, is the
Comes
mirror.
after Earth. I know the last day is Earth
Is mirror.
of this Tricana.
It's mirror.
Which
18th symbol, the
mirror?
dagger, right? The mirror. So,
Right.
like, so as we see our path, as we've experienced the path that we need to be on through the trials that we've been through, and accept that our frequency is our frequency, and we will meet those things on our path that resonate with us, then we get to reflect on it, right? We are given our tools, our most potent, powerful tool, right, is reflection and the ability to cut through the BS, through
Right.
the illusions, right?
Yeah.
And to facilitate the things that we need in our life to happen, right? Because a knife is probably one of the most useful tools that we've got. A blade, like it has facilitated a lot, and we don't give it a lot of credit. We associate things with the wheel, right? You know, best thing
Sure.
since sliced bread. Well, okay, yeah, but what did you use to slice the bread? What did you use to create the wheel? You know,
Right.
it wasn't fire. Fire's
Carbon.
good.
Yeah,
You
right.
need fire. You got to have the tool to create those things, and often it's something with a sharp edge to it.
Yeah. I mean, both tools, like a mirror and like just the fact that one is I think we talked about this maybe last time too, that one is a physical tool. Oh,
Yeah, I'm noticing that too.
Hmm. All right. I'm gonna try unplugging and plugging back in.
All right. Ah, nothing like a little technical difficulties when you're, getting some profound notes.
Oh, yeah.
A glitch in the matrix. Are we resonating too hard? Are we freaking the system out?
Exactly. I think it doesn't like we're touching on too many important things. So the universe is trying to keep us down. Can you hear me?
Oh, I can hear you just fine. Yeah.
Oh yeah, but the video is not going.
Nope. Okay, let's see.
Just tell me that I have too many like things going on.
Too many
tabs or
background
something
things.
open, or
Yeah.
but I closed my other web browser. I closed everything else, but it doesn't look like it wants to like just put the video back on. I'm gonna try plugging it, doing that one more time.
Okay. And then after you do that, be sure to go into your people settings, right? People tab.
People settings.
Yeah. So go into your people tab, and then
People.
you know where your microphone and all that stuff is. You can
Oh, okay.
adjust your camera source.
People. Oh, I see. Doesn't give me an option. Huh. Ooh. I might try like rejoining the podcast,
Okay. You were.
or we could just do it. We could just do it from my audio.
Yeah, yeah. And we're coming up on that hour mark too.
Sure.
So it is.
So yeah, we could
Finish
probably
your
just.
thought, and yeah, we'll cut it out.
What was I saying? Holy moly.
Mirror being a powerful tool.
Oh, right. Okay, so we have. Yeah, the knife and the mirror are both kind of like overlooked in their tools. Kind of like guns don't kill people, people kill people. I don't know what that's supposed to mean, except for that it puts the like same way with the knife. Like forget about the knife. It's the people that are doing the work,
Mm-hmm.
so that you forget about the knife. In fact, now that we have guns, it's like who don't bring a knife to a gunfight, kind of thing. Or so knives have been forgotten, but also mirrors and their utility is forgotten in this day and age. In the sense of not just like looking at yourself in the mirror, because we're all narcissists in that way. It's more like how like reflect inward, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and be, you are what you reflect in the physical world. But that's our tool. That's our tool of mind. Um, and again, like the Buddha said, if everything is mind, then um, that's the best place to sharpen it. That's the
Mm-hmm.
best place to work on yourself is through your own reflection of yourself. Um, yeah. So that's exciting. That knife, and then also um, that reflection insinuates that it's again kind of not necessarily reflection insinuates that it's going to be a chill. It's not an active weak. So
Mm-hmm.
what I wanted to get to is like, okay, so what comes after that? Because now I want to tell the future. Like now I kind of want to be like, okay, we can really kind of get the flow of things. Every 13 days, we're going to kind of have a shift in energy,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of to get back to what we started with too is like that kind of contraction versus rest, rest and digest. That you need both phases.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and change between the two phases can be some of the hardest parts.
Yep.
Is going from I'm just so relaxed and I don't want to get up and do anything, and then you get up and do anything. You're like, okay, I got to keep going. I got to keep going. I got a lot of energy and
Right.
I'm gonna keep going. Uh, don't forget to it's time to relax. Well, if I
Right.
relax,
Gotta rest.
I don't know if I'll ever get up again.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Like, what if a tiger eats me? Well, are you in a safe enough space? Well, you gotta rest, otherwise it's going to
Yeah.
eat you because you're so stressed out
You're
and
not going to see it coming.
right.
You're not going to be aware.
Yeah.
You need to reflect. You need to reflect. It's like that's both states have the same weakness. Because Because if you're too engaged or too focused in them, uh, your vision starts to narrow.
Yeah.
Uh, you don't take seriously what's happening externally if you're spending too much time internally and resting and digesting what you've been given,
Yep.
and then vice versa. If you're going too hard at something with all of your energy, then you are blocking out everything else
Mm-hmm.
in order to continue giving your energy to whatever that activity is.
Yeah. 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 A good example of that is what I went through last year. I put myself into 9 shows essentially consecutively last year, like full productions, most of which took about 3 months to produce, right? And so like the times where I'm playing versus the time where I'm rehearsing were overlapping just about every
Oh,
single day, and I went so hard. I'm losing so much sleep, getting an hour and a half to 4 hours a night, resting for full days where I had the weird day off. It's like, okay, I'm not doing anything. I'm just gonna sleep, but I'm not eating. I'm not functioning in any productive way.
and
And
for how long? And for
uh,
how long was this kind of your status quo?
so that was from essentially uh, March to December. I was just go,
Yeah,
go,
that's
go, go, go.
how many different weeks where you're supposed to be kind of giving yourself a break are you going through over that period of time? Yeah.
Yeah. So I opened a show, immediately had to go. This is tech week, so you're there like 5 hours a night, and then, having to go to work or do whatever it is the next day. And then I was traveling to do the next gig, which is an hour 40, about an hour and a half away. Um, and then, getting home at basically midnight, um, on top of that rehearsal schedule, waking up, and then as soon as I open that show, I'm in rehearsal already for the next show. Um, and then same thing with the next one where I was simultaneous rehearsal schedules, and then I opened that show, was in a week of rehearsal for that one. Uh, had a show during the day, left, had a show that night in a different location for a different program, had about a week off, and then was directly into another show where I was in Seattle every day, which is actually where we met. And then
Right.
after that show closed out, I was sick for the next 5 months.
Oh, right. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, just like I had, I think maybe a total of 7 days where I wasn't sick during that whole process. I finally
Oh.
recovered from the one, hung out with somebody, and then got sick. It was just like, oh my god, come on, please. So
Huh.
yeah,
Yes.
that's your body breaks down. Like you have to
Right.
you have to take that time to rest and reflect. You know, and sometimes
Makes me
that
wonder.
means cutting stuff out.
Makes me wonder too. Like even if you have that much going on, because I'm sure a lot of people feel like that busy all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's we're addicted to busyness in this day and age in a lot of ways, and so I'm sure like many people would benefit from tools that they can use regardless of their context or circumstances in
Mm-hmm.
order to mitigate that. So if you
Yeah.
still feel like you're on all the time, and I mean I know that breath work is like you don't have to like even separate yourself from whatever you're doing. But if you can start a practice of breathing, um, just like take a moment. You don't have to take yourself away from what you're doing. You just have to consciously bring your attention to your breath. Uh, it stimulates the rest and digest system.
Yeah.
Every exhale essentially is your body relaxing um, because you've got the air that you need for the next few moments. So, and you contract your diaphragm in order to bring air in. Uh, so it's something that you're doing all the time anyway. So if you just bring any of your attention to it, that's why if you're stressed out or feeling anxiety, people recommend taking a deep breath. But you really have access to this tool all the time, everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other one is this one's a little bit more difficult, but this is one that I'm working on too in terms of like how to lay it out in a way that makes sense to people. But literally resting your body, like so, regardless of what you're doing, resting, like how still can you be when you do it, whatever it is that you're doing, whether you're thinking about something, allowing your so it's about movement, it's about physically moving your body, but bringing awareness to how you're doing it, and seeing if you can slow it down,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that you're not, because if you're in the mind of, oh, I got to get this done in the next 5 minutes, that's too much energy. If it's like, okay, I have 5 minutes to get this done, here are the things that I can get done in the next 5 minutes. It's allowing your body to relax on the idea, and you will probably find that you're able to realize solutions much easier by doing so.
Yeah.
And then you hopefully, if you're spending 8 months on that kind of busy road, you won't crash so hard on the back end of it. I know
Yeah.
you're talking about rehearsals and stuff, and being an actor in shows. And I remember when I was part of big productions that there's always this come down after the production is over, and
Yeah.
you weren't even giving yourself the opportunity for that, which is fine. Um, uh, in normal circumstances, I mean, if it again, if because I remember those particular experiences being like almost like a depressive state because you had all these things to do,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's like, no, well, now I don't have any things to do. So in the sense that you constantly had something to do,
Mm-hmm.
um, kind of didn't allow you to have that kind of snake sine cosine function happening, but that's still approachable. There's still a way to bring awareness to that, so that it doesn't feel like you're getting wound up,
Mm-hmm.
um, and that you're so tight that once you finally do release, it's like everything falls down.
Yeah. 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 But it's also I ignoring the necessity for that deep rest that you need when
Yeah,
you've suddenly completed something and now you can, I mean, if nothing else, bask in the glory of what you've created,
yeah,
right? Like transitioning from that um, trial by fire moment
right.
and going into just a light, right? Where it's
Yep,
bright, it's movement, but it's also, you know, enjoying, right? Celebration. Like you need to have
yeah,
that so that you can process fully what you've done, where you've been, reflect on all of it, and then prepare yourself to move forward to the next thing. Which again,
yeah.
like you mentioned, like it's quite often not the case where we can have that opportunity, which I mean goes to a systemic issue with uh, a lot of the way our society is structured. We're not given the opportunity to rest.
Right. Well, it's definitely the sensation of that.
Mm-hmm.
The sense is that, like I represented earlier with the grasping fist versus the open palm. I don't know if that was in the episode, but
Mm-hmm.
that same idea of we are enculturated to grip tighter, to hold on and use what we're holding on to, squeeze as much out of it as we can,
Mm-hmm.
so that the idea of letting go is the exact opposite of what we want to do. Of relaxing and expanding that muscle is the last thing that we want to do, in so many different ways, in so
Right.
many different parallels. To kind of circle this back to the week of the serpent, I've been wanting to kind of mention a lot of the kind of things that I'm gearing up for this week.
Mm-hmm.
Given that it's also my challenge symbol, it's on the, I don't know if that's the left or the right.
Ah.
Um, but so I've challenged myself going into the serpent, out of the road, to fast. I don't know.
Mm.
Things just kind of came together last. I mean, I typically kind of like don't get super hungry until late morning anyway, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually committing to a full blown fast today, at least for 36 hours. So I haven't eaten anything since 7 o'clock last night. And I might, I don't know if this is a good idea, so I might call it off after the 36-hour fast. Tomorrow is the symbol of death anyway, so it's kind of like maybe it's a time to transition into. But the idea that it's kind of a rest and digest, even though it's a stressful thing to fast, it stresses your system, it also allows your system to regenerate. And going into the Serpent Week with that, I feel like will give me a boon of energy out the other side, of course, because by the end of the week, not only is it my last class that I'm teaching for improv on Monday, which is the Day of the Dog,
Mm-hmm.
which I thought was kind of cool because
Nice.
there's some symbolism that I'm kind of I'm not remembering exactly what it is, but that will resonate on that day since it is the last day of that class.
Yeah.
Um, and then the following weekend, a lot of things are kind of like lining up in a weird way. So
Cool.
it's I'm going on a backpacking trip,
Oh, nice.
an annual backpacking trip that I take with my brother and father to the Olympic Mountains.
Cool.
And there's this spot where some of my mother's ashes are buried. This is going to be the first year that my dad isn't able to, physically able to probably make it up. He's been dealing with some hip issues. And so he will probably just walk us out, day hike us out along the river basin. And then it'll be me and my brother going up to Appleton Pass at this time. And it's the 30th of August that we'll be taking this trek up with my brother. And that is the day of the eagle, which my brother, that's his birth nawal. And so I'm like looking at that and I'm going, okay, wow. And
Yeah.
the following day is vulture the same as owl or bee? No, vulture is its own, right?
Well, no, they different tribes attribute that symbol to either vulture or owl. I'm convinced that it's the bee.
Actually, bee.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So that one implies, ancestral wisdom. And so I'm getting the sense that after this night up on the mountain, where, I'm sure there's going to be so many energies after a long day of hiking. Anyway, there's like so much anticipation. So I'm also like, I have to kind of rationalize and then like let myself, don't have too high expectations. Like, not like the skies are going to open up and I'm going to be taken, or something. I don't know. Like there's going to be a rapture at that moment. Um, but just,
Okay.
but just that it's a culmination of the path that I've been on for the last year or more in many big ways. And then finally, Labor Day, the first, will mark a year of sobriety from pretty much everything, but particularly pot, or cannabis, which has dominated a lot of my, last 15 years. I've talked to you about how I've taken significant 6-month-long breaks for the last couple of years ever since I started my family. But yeah, so a lot of things. And that's the final day of the Serpent Week, which is like, whoa. And then it's also the symbol of Earth, and so some sort of offering to the Earth because I feel like, in a sense, that's what I don't know. I have to look into more of the symbolic, um, what resonates with Earth, but I don't know. I feel like that. Um, yeah. Okay. Here it is. Uh, Cannabis for me was very grounded in the
Mm.
sense that it kind of my high energy, my high storm state. It despite my despite my efforts, it leveled me out
Mm-hmm.
in a way that became antagonistic
Ah.
after a time,
Mm-hmm.
and felt like I plateaued. I wasn't going anywhere,
Yeah.
and so it was grounding. But I'm also a fire elemental. If I look at the distribution of my elemental, I'm like 5 fire and I'm like 1 earth. So it's kind of
Ah.
almost like I needed that time to kind of contain my energy for
Mm-hmm.
long enough so I didn't like burn out.
Ah.
Ironically, through the use of cannabis, which is like becoming a burnout. So I think all of that, like um, so yeah, all of that is playing out in this Tracana. So it's so that's what I'm kind of like really excited about, like to see what I'm sure I'll have stories to tell. Whether we do this again next week, but for certain, by the time we're well into September and we get the next one going.
Yeah.
So I couldn't leave this episode without kind of like laying that out. The last thing I'll say is that I recognize that um, Storm isn't in this week,
Right.
and it's the first week since Storm. Well, I mean, so that tells me that once it is your birth Nawal week, that in 2 Turkanas you will not see your symbol then.
Yes.
Um, I don't know what that means, but that all of my other symbols, my left and my right, my challenge and my gift. So it is my challenge. So two it in the Turkana after the Turkana of your birth Nawal, you probably have you have your challenge.
Mm-hmm.
You go through your challenge side of your Mayan cross, and within that week is all of the other symbols at different points in times. So
Yep.
my Trikana, not necessarily, this wouldn't necessarily be the case, but the dog Trikana is in there. That wouldn't necessarily be the case for everybody. Maybe, I don't know. Yeah, probably wouldn't necessarily be. Most often, maybe, because you have 13 days out of 20, so there's a good chance. I don't know,
Right.
maybe. And then, but deer's in there, monkey's in there, which are my destiny and I don't know origin or whatever,
Yep.
or starting ones, and reed. So they're all in there at some point over the week. So there's so many things going on this week where I'm just like, oh man, I'm pumped because this is my challenge week where everything that I've been doing over the last year, including this podcast and getting to know you, it's like kind of it feels like a culmination in certain ways. It's like now here's the real test, buddy. Can you do all those things that you've been gearing up for?
Right.
And it won't end there, right? Because then it's going to be about a week of reflection and what still needs to grow,
Mm-hmm.
uh, what needs to be got let go of. Because yeah, it's a never-ending journey. So that's why I'm also like, excited. What comes after knife? Because also I'm approaching the last month before my daughter arrives to this world,
Oh yeah.
and so I'm like, ooh, like yeah. What else? What else am I in store for the next couple months? Because it's going to be a very exciting, if not uh, trying time for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, I know. I gave you a lot. I gave you a lot.
Well,
To
I
digest
mean
there.
that's how it is, man. But
Yeah, true.
I mean, like, congratulations on your realizations, your kid, and the culminating things that are approaching. You know, the
I
end of
am.
your class, the journey you're going to take with your brother, all of it. Like,
Yeah.
it's going to be a very powerful week, and like you should be proud of the things that you've accomplished.
Well, thank you, Chris.
Yeah, dude.
I I appreciate you being um, the path in a sense. I feel like you are a guide on the path that I've been on, and I don't think I would be capable of making the kinds of realizations if I didn't have you in my life here to kind of bounce some of this off of. So, uh, thank you for all that you bring uh, to my world, dude. Can't wait to do this again. Hell of an episode.
Yeah, dude. For sure. And just I want to thank you too for being that trial by fire that tests every bit of knowledge and experience that I've ever had in order to make sense of it, so that
Happy to do it.
other people like yourself can have an opportunity to grow, and learn
Right
from
on.
my crazy life.
Yeah, I'll keep pulling it out of you as much as I can, picking it apart. Yeah,
Let's do it, man. Let's keep going. This is gonna be fun.
right on.
All right, brother.
Peace.